What's up, my channel? Is your friendly neighborhood SassyBlondeWriter coming at you with some writing tips, tricks, and advice. Today we are talking about underwriting. What is it, and why it's not so good to do that, and also how can you fight it? Before we get started, please make sure that you subscribe to my content, ring that little bell, because I don't want you to miss any SassyBlonde content from your friendly neighborhood SassyBlondeWriter. Another reason I'm making this video is because I was watching a video the other day. It was called Tips for Underwriters. However, the person who made the video was an overwriter. But I think because I am an underwriter, I think I have sort of the inside scoop on what I personally do to fix the fact that I am an underwriter. So what is an underwriter? An underwriter is pretty much what it sounds. So when you're writing a scene, you write the bare bones. You basically hit the bare minimum. You tell the reader what happened, and then you move on with your life. Most people are kind of a mix of both, but overall, you're either one or the other. Some people overwrite descriptions and then underwrite fight scenes, or vice versa. But across the board, I'm pretty much an underwriter. So one of the issues that I have with NaNoWriMo, and I think this might be an issue for other people, who knows, is that I tend to rush to get the book done for NaNoWriMo, which is why I tend to be an underwriter. A lot of my scenes are just underwritten because my sights are set on finishing the frickin' book before the end of the month or at the end of the month. Not really with fleshing everything out as I write and being okay with just hitting 500 words at the end of the month. So the issue I tend to run into is I become an underwriter because I'm not giving everything its full attention that it really needs and really deserves in my manuscript because I am rushing to get everything done at once. Maybe you have that issue too. Please let me know in the comments if I'm not the only one who has this issue, or maybe I just have the wrong approach to NaNoWriMo. It could really go either way. But I find understanding why you tend to underwrite usually helps figure out what you need to do in order to hit your word count. So one of the issues underwriters have whenever they are going through and editing is they tend to have to add things. They maybe have to add scenes, they have to add descriptions. What tends to happen is we underwrite the scenes that we're either not in the mood to write at the moment, which is fine. You can always come back to it later when you're revising and editing, or we just underwrite the scenes that we don't really have a lot of confidence in doing. Piggybacking off of that, let's jump right into my tips for underwriters to hit that word count. So like I said before, nobody is just 100% an underwriter all the time, and nobody is just 100% an overwriter all the time. It's kind of like right brain versus left brain, or introvert versus extrovert. Everybody has their days where they're kind of wishy-washy around, and usually it's just a percentage overall of what you tend to be like. Nobody really is 100% right brain and 100% left brain. Obviously you use both sides of your brain at some point, or maybe that's a bad example. But nobody is extroverted 100% of the time, needs to be around people 24/7, and nobody is 100% I need to be alone all the time either. Basically what I'm saying is everybody is a little mixed bag. So what you need to do if you are not hitting your word counts for whatever reason, if at the end of NaNoWriMo you're not hitting that word count, or if you looked up the publishing statistics for word counts for your particular genre, I know there are specific ones, I don't know them off the top of my head, but if you're not hitting that, I think YA is usually like 80,000 words, don't quote me on that. So if you notice you're not hitting that word count, you're probably an underwriter. If you're hitting over that word count, you're probably an overwriter. One of the ways you can fix being an underwriter is to go through either this specific project or your past projects as well. Pretty much any written medium. Overwriters tend to be very long-winded. Underwriters tend to try to get to the point. So while you're looking at your manuscript and you're reading through it, or maybe you're reading through short stories as well, because generally what happens is, regardless, whatever you're writing, it tends to be an issue with that certain type of scene. Do you have white room syndrome, where you're not talking about descriptions? Do you not know a lot about fight scenes or how to write them, so you tend to shy away from them? Do you just not really have a good grasp on dialogue and character voice, so you just tend to have the bare bones be your dialogue? Whatever that is, you need to figure out what your weaknesses are. No good vibes only. You need to figure out what your weaknesses are, so that way you can overcome them. You also should try to figure out what your strengths are as well. Read through your work and try to figure out which parts you tend to gloss over and which parts you maybe go into more detail with, and try to figure that out. For example, when I write, I tend to write really long scenes of dialogue. Dialogue is one of my strengths. I tend to overwrite it. I usually have a very good sense of character voice as well, not to toot my own horn, but I tend to underwrite descriptions. A lot of my work suffers from white room syndrome, where I don't really explicitly describe different areas. So sometimes it just comes from just needing to flex that muscle, that writing muscle, a little bit more. Practice writing dialogue. Do a flash fiction where you write mostly dialogue just to get a hang of it. Read some examples of different types of genres. If you're really bad at descriptions like me, one thing you can do is you can look at screenplays, because I tend to try to write efficiently. I don't really write flowery prose about descriptions of a room. If I was trying to describe this room right here, I'd be like, there was a bookshelf, there were books on it. Moving on, there was this interesting blonde woman talking to her phone. The one thing you can do is, if you're looking to make sure you stay efficient but you get the descriptions right, you can look at screenplays. Lessons from a Screenplay does a fabulous job of doing this sort of thing, where they literally will show you like back to back that what's in the screenplay and then what plays in the movie. I don't know how he does it, but he does it, and that's been really helpful for me, because screenplays, you have to be efficient. You're trying to make sure that whoever's directing the movie knows exactly what should be happening and can picture it, because, you know, movies are a visual medium. So screenplays are written for that purpose, to literally put a picture in your mind. So if you read some screenplays, go through that sort of thing, it will help you learn how to be efficient. I find that to be the overall goal when you're an underwriter. You want to be efficient with your writing time. You want to do what you have to do to finish the story, basically. Another issue you can have as an underwriter is that you don't know how to describe a scene, so you describe it as basic as possible. This happened with a mystery that I wrote because I didn't really know the subject area. If you're writing, so you want to make sure you do your research for the scene that you're writing. If you're writing about a high school robotics competition and you've never been to one, guess what? The internet is a beautiful thing. Research things either in that genre. If it's a specific genre thing, like parsing out a puzzle through dialogue, look at examples. That's one of the best things you can do. Find really good examples, find really bad examples. You can actually learn a lot from really bad examples. So I recommend doing that as well. What's wrong with what you're looking at? What will be more helpful for you as a reader? And then you can go back to your own writing and apply the criticism you already gave to this scene. Sometimes it can be easier to spot what's bad from what's good. Another problem you can have as an underwriter is that you just don't have the stamina to just get those word counts up in one day. That's a specific problem for me with NaNoWriMo, where I try to get my word count goal up, but it's just really hard. So one of the things you can do for that I highly recommend is to practice writing short stories or flash fiction. Flash fiction, from what I understand, is like a shorter version of short stories. It's like even shorter, and unlike a short story, it doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end. It's just like a scene, and you want to just capture the feeling of the scene. So that's one way you can get your word count goal up. Over the course of like a week, write one short story. Give yourself little challenges. They don't have to necessarily be related back to your novel. Just give yourself challenges. And that way also, when you're writing shorter fiction, you can pick up on the different issues you have a lot quicker than having to read through your entire novel manuscript. So that's all I have for you today, folks. Those are my top tips for underwriters and how to improve from an underwriter herself. If there are any tips that you personally do that have worked for you, please share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it so that way I know you guys want more content like this. If you want to see more Sassy Blonde content, please check out my channel. Please subscribe and ring that bell. I work hard on these videos and I like to know that people are watching. I hope you have a wonderful writing time. Bye!